Hey everyone, my name is Earl. I'm the Systems Administrator with Fort County EMC, and today we're going to be making restaurant-style fajitas. This is a recipe that I've kind of been working on for a little bit, and I think it's ready for prime time. We'll see. We're going to prep in the kitchen and then move outside to the Blackstone griddle and actually finish those on the griddle. So to begin with, we're going to go over our ingredient list. We're going to need some chicken breasts, some boneless, skinless chicken breasts. We're going to need 3 bell peppers. Typically, I like to use the green, red, and yellow. Right, each one has its own individual taste and flavor. We're going to need a yellow onion. For our dry ingredients, we're going to need black pepper. We're going to need smoked paprika. If you can get smoked paprika, definitely do that. Garlic powder, salt, and cumin. One thing I want to mention though is you want to make sure that when you're doing anything with chicken or meats, you don't want to cut those first. Typically you want to do those after because you don't want to risk salmonella or any foodborne illness or anything like that. So I'm gonna get started here. So I'm taking the ends and the skin off the onions here. So usually the way I do it is I'll cut the ends off and then kind of take it very carefully, peel as much of the skin off as you can and do a simple little cut to take the rest of the skin off, the top skin. So then I'm going to slice down the middle. Put that to the side. And all we want to do is actually just try to go as evenly as you can, so that way the onions will cook evenly. Just be very careful not to hurt yourself. We'll move on to our peppers here. Usually when I like to do with the peppers, just slice it right through the core and the stem. And it's usually best to do this with a paring knife if you can. So we'll just cut that stem out there, put that in our work bowl. Repeat for the other side. All right, so we're looking for about the same thing, about 1/4 inch slices. So if you need to, this is a kind of a larger bell pepper, so we'll just cut it once more. I'm just going to carefully slice into about 1/4, maybe 1/2 inch pieces, whatever you prefer. As long as they're even, that's the biggest thing. So what we're going to need to do, this is kind of a thicker piece of meat, so we're going to need to take that down a little bit because we want everything to be as even as possible. So we can butterfly it, right? We can cut it like this if we wish, just to kind of even it up. Just set that aside because we'll use that as well. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut this into strips. Again, 1/4 inch pieces to a 1/2 inch. Just be very careful and go through. Okay, so go through and finish cutting up our chicken here. We're going to repeat the process on this other one. So now we've got our chicken in our work bowl. We're going to add roughly about a tablespoon or so of vegetable oil. You can use other oils if you'd like to, such as avocado oil. It's got a higher smoke point. You want to try to stay away from oils with low smoking points, such as extra virgin olive oil, because it'll just burn on the griddle. So then we're going to add our spices. We're going to add our pepper, our paprika or paprika, garlic powder. We're going to add most of our salt. We're going to reserve about a 1/4 teaspoon aside. Add our cumin, and then we're just going to mix it together. You can use your hands, best tools on earth. All right, we're going to wash our hands again. We're going to grab our bowl with our vegetables, and we're going to add a bit more oil. We're going to add the little bit of salt that we reserved. And again, we're just going to mix it to coat it. Just kind of break up all the little bits and pieces of the onions that may have stuck. Because you don't want to get out there on the griddle and have to have to try to fight with this. It's easier to do it in here. Just break our onion pieces up here. So at this point, we're all prepped up. Now all we have to do is move out to the griddle and wash your hands again. So now we're outside at our griddle. We've got it, all the burners are on high at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and add some oil. I like using a squeeze bottle with the oil of choice in there. I'm using vegetable today. And we're just gonna go ahead and put some oil down and just try to give it a good coating. And we can test it by adding one of our little strips of chicken here. It's sizzling, so we should be good to go. And now we'll just start adding the rest of it on here. And we will be moving this around with our tongs here shortly. Right now we're just trying to get it in contact with the grill. So we're actually outside of the 4-county building today, filming this during the workday. So you may hear some trucks, you may hear some folks in the background. We did end up doubling the recipe as well, so that way we can treat a few folks to lunch today. So we have our chicken on here. I'm gonna get rid of these chickeny gloves here and start to try to move as much of the chicken as I can to the other side. All right, so we've got our chicken moved over. We're gonna let that heat back up a little bit. Go ahead and might want to add a little bit more oil. Take the vegetables that we cut up earlier. Let's add those. So generally when I'm cooking something like this, I'm gonna just kind of update the oil a little bit every so often. We'll let that sit for a few more minutes. And we'll go ahead and flip the chicken over. I'm gonna go ahead and cut down the heat to about low on this side. So that way the vegetables finish around the same time as the chicken. One thing I would advise is make sure that since you have touched raw chicken with these tongs, wash them next if you're going to use them. So we're just gonna set those to the side. Since the chicken should be cooked on both sides going forward, we shouldn't have to worry about keeping the utensils separate. That's why you see me keeping the spatulas separate. Because now we can actually use our spatulas to kind of rake them around, and that way we don't have to worry about dirtying up our spatulas. So we're trying to get a nice char on the vegetables themselves. You don't want them, you want them a little bit, what they call al dente. So you don't want them fully cooked. You want them kind of to have a little bit of a crunch to them. Not too crunchy, but just enough to where it's not mushy. But again, cook to your preference. I'm gonna go ahead and get a temperature. I'm a big fan of instant read thermometers to make sure that your chicken comes to temperature, or any other meat that you're cooking. We're at 163 here, so that's actually close to being done. By the time we finish, it will be at 165. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the heat on the chicken, just so we don't overcook it. What I like to do is I'm gonna kind of pile it up over here. We're gonna go ahead and continue letting the peppers cook while we go ahead and get our flour tortillas out. So what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna test our chicken once more just to make sure. I would rather have chicken that's at or overcooked than I had undercooked chicken. All right, so we're good there. We're just gonna go ahead and kind of bring it all together. So at the risk of overcooking everything, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in this bowl, this clean bowl, and I'm just gonna put a plate over it to keep it warm. Next, we're gonna do this without spilling, hopefully. This griddle is very hot. We're gonna go ahead and turn it off completely. Because all we're gonna do is heat up our shells here. And all we're trying to do is heat these up, really. We're not trying to cook them, they're already cooked. So we're just gonna lay them out. By the time you get the last one on there, it's gonna be time to flip the first one, so. All right, the outside portion of this is done. Now what we ought to do is move in and put them all together. So we're back in the kitchen. we're gonna go ahead and toss this around a little bit. While the mixture was sitting, it actually accumulates some juices in the bottom. We just want to stir that up so that it gets reincorporated into the meat mixture. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to go ahead and plate this. I'm going to fix myself a little salad here. So I like to buy, for this kind of situation, this pre-shredded lettuce, which saves a lot of work and a lot of time. And the way I fix mine is just a little bit of a portion of each. Like I said earlier, you can choose to keep it separate instead of mixing it all together. So that's my little portion there. To portion out the flour tortillas, you're just going to take a taco, and usually folks can do this themselves or you can fix them ahead. And all you're going to do is just try to put a little bit in the middle. And some may fall around. You don't want to overdo it. You kind of want to, you don't want to overstuff it or it's going to fall out. You just kind of, something like that, just so it folds. So we're going to add a little bit of this cheese. I like the quesadilla melting cheese. So we're going to add a little bit of that to the top. And I'm going to put a little bit on my salad as well. Set that to the side and give it a try. You can also add, any kind of toppings that you like, guacamole, sour cream, diced tomatoes. Sky's the limit. That's really good. We hope you have a fantastic Cinco de Mayo. And from all of us here at Fort County, thank you for watching.